WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5, Milwaukee.
Coming up on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show,
we'll talk about the health of your soil, some tips to make it nutrient-dense.
Without pollinators, we have no food. Pollinators are more than just bees. We'll explain.
And we'll have author and founder of Gardener.com and author of Gardening for Geeks, Christy Wilhelmi.
As well as your questions. Tell your gardening friends Garden Radio's on the air, as it all starts right now.
You're tuned in to the only vegetable gardening radio show in Milwaukee, with your host, Joey Baird, who grew up in the country but now lives closer to the city, and Hallie Baird, who has always been a city girl. Combined, they have over 25 years of gardening experience, who believe in simple gardening practices. A gardener for all gardeners, founders of the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, where they created over 800 how-to garden videos to teach others how to grow more of what they eat. Join them for the next hour as they discuss vegetable gardening and more.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show on 860 AM WNOV and W293CX 106.5. Wherever you may be listening, however you may be listening, whether on those stations or the TuneIn app or the Simple Radio app or the radio tab on the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com website or social media or anywhere in between. I am your host. Beside me is my wife, best friend, co-host, and gardening partner,
Hallie Baird.
The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com is your destination for all things gardening. 850-plus videos, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and a whole lot more, all for you all to help you grow more of what you like to eat and want to eat. Well, the show is made possible to you every single Saturday morning by great sponsors, and those are those individuals who pay the bills so we can be here.
Nasala Kombucha is the executive sponsor of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Nasala is made in Wisconsin with your local tea and natural herbs. Look for it in the refrigerator aisle at your local grocer. If you don't see it, ask for it, because it's not Nasala Kombucha. It's not kombucha. Find more at nasala.com. And I want to remind you, if you have any questions anytime throughout the show or comments, you can give us a call on the Ivy Organic hotline. Ivy Organic is a 3-in-1 plant guard, naturally protects plants against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents, protects newly installed plants and trees, shields pruned and damaged surfaces for use on your roses, fruit, and nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs. This product is non-toxic, environmentally safe, and organic. For more information, you can visit ivorganics.com. The number to call in is 414-444-5250. If you have any questions, again, comments, 414-444-5250.
We want to say a thank you to West Bend Public Library. We were there Monday talking about potatoes, very enthusiastic group of individuals, some new to growing potatoes, some have been growing potatoes for many years, just wanted to see if they could pick up, and they did pick up some tips that would help them grow better. As well as Franklin Public Library. We were there, what was it, Thursday night, Wednesday night, Tuesday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, where we talked about straw bale gardening. Hello to those individuals who attended that talk that are now listening to the program, as well as this Tuesday.
This Tuesday will be in Mequon.
Mequon.
At the Frank Weinberg Library. It's the only library in Mequon.
Talking straw bale gardening at 6 p.m. And then Thursday we'll be up at Random Lake at 6:30 talking basics of canning. If you have a garden group, club, organization, group, gathering in which you would like us to talk gardening, contact us through the website under the speaking request tab, or you can also send us an email at twvgradio@gmail.com. And to see where we will be, where you will be, you can see click on the Come See Us tab on the website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com.
And we were given the opportunity to be on TMJ4 News last Sunday morning.
Daybreak.
Excuse me. And that was fun. We talked, we did a little gardening talk, and it was a nice time. So we want to thank you for having us on.
Yep, that segment will be on our website tomorrow morning. You can see that in its entirety. They did not post that on TMJ4.com website. There's a lot of politics that go on, and there's two rival stations that are in that building, and there was some conflict of interest is what they said, but the producer got a hold of us and said we could be on, and they were very sparse about our radio program here, but we're happy that we were given the opportunity to be on for 3 minutes to talk gardening with their viewers. And if you're tuning in because you saw us on TMJ4, welcome, and you'd like to call in, you can certainly call in with your garden question or email. And if you're listening to our program send us an email, twvgradio, or tweet us at #TWVG, and just let us know how you found out about us. You always been listening to the station, or have you found us through a paper or the TV news or other social media aspects? So with that being said, we are going to talk about today, how healthy is your soil? This is a very important process in gardening. If you don't have healthy soil, you're not going to have healthy plants.
Right. So soil is the lifeblood of your plants.
Just like if you're not healthy, you're sick, you're not going to be able to function very good or perform tasks in 100% that you normally would. So let's talk about healthy soil here.
Okay. So healthy soil, as we had mentioned, is good and great for your plants.
It's the only thing. Yeah. Now there are some other mediums in growing.
And to be honest, it took us a year or two to figure that out. We were having the first couple of years of our large garden we were doing well, and then I think it was the third year we weren't doing so well, and so we had to adjust things in our soil to help it. And
we don't know everything. We learn as we go as well.
We're definitely not perfect when it comes to gardening or anything in life really. So so there is no way to tell visually, and so so you can't just look at your soil and say, okay, it's this color. I mean, you might see clay or something in it. You might see that it's really gray.
We'll get into that, but the ultimate answer here is invest in a soil test. You can purchase a soil test kit from the local university extension. And just like anything in life, the more money you invest in it, the more details you get back about your soil. Now, there are soil tests available on Amazon. You can buy it for, I think it's $30. You get it, you fill out the paperwork, you put the soil in, you send it off, and they email you the test results. But that gives you some idea. But let's say we don't want to invest. Now, I do want to caution, and I want to warn you. If you've been gardening in the same spot like for 67 years, you probably don't have to worry about this. But if you're a new gardener, or you're gardening in a new spot, or you've never gardened in that spot before, the backyard, whatever, there may be some toxicity levels of lead, arsenic, maybe an old gas station, those type of toxicities, which you can't physically look at the soil and go, yeah, that soil has lead, or that soil has this. You have to have a soil test in order to figure this information out. So that's your disclaimer. All right, now we go.
Okay, so if you don't want to do a soil test, outside of Joey's disclaimer there, you can take a look at your soil and you can determine some things. The first one is your soil nice and loose and loamy? So does that mean that if you take a little hand trowel, dig into the soil, do you have to work really hard to dig into the soil, or is it easy?
There is going to be some natural resistance, natural compaction. But then you take that handful of soil, ball it up in your hand, and then take your finger and tap it. Does it fall apart, or does it stay as dense as a clay that you would have your children play with? So that's one thing. There's three types of soil. There's clay soil, there's the loose and loomy soil, which we just talked about, and there's very sandy soil. So we kind of are more on the clay to loose and loomy based on how your soil is. We really don't. We don't have the sandy soil in our garden, but there are some places where it's you water it and the water just runs through just like a sieve. So those are some things. Now, if you have any of those three, you can always add amending compost. Good organic compost will help break down and feed the soil and build the microbial life and the structure of the soil back up to where it is in a good, healthy, fertile place in order for your plants to be happy to grow.
Right. So the reason you want the loose and loamy soil is because you want your plants to be able their roots to expand and get into the soil. And also if you're growing root crops, that gives them a chance to expand as well. With
dense soil, root crops such as potatoes, beets, parsnips, carrots, they don't grow very well because the soil is too dense for them to penetrate through the soil. So a lot of gardening, you can learn stuff from our YouTube videos, from our website, but there's a certain percentage of gardening that comes with common sense, okay? 4 plus 4 is 8. Common sense. We know that. So there's certain aspects of gardening that's common sense that you go, that doesn't look right. Why? Don't keep doing it then. Figure out what's wrong. Another thing is if you're just physically looking at your soil, whether you've had a garden there or never had a garden there, what does the plants the vegetation that is currently in that location look like?
Yeah, if they look nice and green and lush, that's probably a good sign that the soil is going to be nutrient dense. If you have some sparse, patchy looking grass.
If it's a bare area that, what oil was dumped there at one time 37 years ago, stuff is not going to grow, and you're wasting your time. Go to a raised bed or container.
Definitely.
So that thing. And in addition to the lushness of the vegetation in that area, you also want to look at what insects are there. And we'll talk more about, pollinators in the second segment, but what insects are on those plants that are in that location.
So speaking of what Joey just said about you might want to go to a raised bed, if you're not sure about your soil and if you don't want to invest in a soil test, you can always go to raised beds, and that's not a bad thing. It's not like you're failing or something.
Upfront investment
it's an
for
upfront
long-term reward.
Right. So it's not a bad thing to do raised beds. It's an ideal situation for a lot of people. So
we'll talk about the large population of beneficial insects and organisms.
First we got to talk about the small population of bad bugs.
Okay, let's talk about bad bugs.
Bad bugs are not the worst thing to have in your garden. It's when they become a problem. If you have a population of bad bugs, that's good. No matter what, there's gonna be bad things in your soil, and there are occasionally gonna be bad bugs in your soil.
And there is kind of a benefit to having some bad bugs, because that brings in the good insects that help pollinate your plants, that help control that population of bad bugs, and you keep the good bugs in there, the good guys against the bad guys. So that's a balanced ecosystem.
Right. So now we're going to move on to the large population of beneficial insects and organisms. The biggest telltale sign is worms. If you go and take a shovel full of soil about a foot down and you turn it over in various spots and you don't find any worms, that's not good. Now you can add things to your soil to make the worms come, but it's a healthy ecosystem when you see worms.
You go to an agricultural farm that's been spraying chemicals for the last 37, 40, 45 years, and dig in the soil in that field, you're not going to find any life because it's all run on chemicals. Your garden shouldn't be that way. The University Extension says that if you take 1 cubic foot of soil, that's 1 foot down by 1 foot by 1 foot, a block, and open it up, you should have between 9 and 12 worms in that 1 square foot. We've done that in our garden, and we're running somewhere between 30 and 45 worms per 1 square foot, because we continue to add organic matter. Every year we put lots of leaves. 40, 50, 40-gallon trash can fulls of shredded and unshredded leaves, dry grass clippings, coffee grounds, anything to bring in and to feed the soil as well as feed the organisms in there. Now, there also are going to be other organisms in that soil in which you cannot see. But if you have the worms there, that is the telltale sign that your ecosystem is very good, because if there's no worms, the likelihood of other beneficial organisms and insects in the soil in which you can't see, that you only can see under a magnifying glass or what do you call that? Microscope is probably not going to be there.
Right.
So that's, and healthy soil, in order to build any soil, and the disclaimer was if it's not lead or toxic or anything like that, just normal, everyday, regular backyard soil, compost is the answer. You can add granular fertilizer, yes. That will help feed the plants. But your overall balance of healthy building soil is compost, and a lot of it. About 1 inch every year is really the way it's going to work. And you can take... And you don't have to till. You can simply, if you've worked the soil once, and you can just take a layer of compost, and we'll talk about this with Doug Oster next week, our guest from Philadelphia. He'll take in his backyard and put 1 inch of compost on every bed and plant in that soil bed of compost, and then over the summer, over the year, it will work itself in the ground, feed the soil, and then next year he'll bring another inch of soil and put on top of that, and he keeps building that, essentially a raised bed without walls in his garden.
Right.
So building your soil, knowing how healthy your soil is key. And if you have any inkling or concern that is toxic of any type of any type of thing, get it tested. It's well worth knowing, because there are some vegetables that can be grown in toxic soil that doesn't absorb that toxicity. And there also are plants that will absorb that toxicity, and then you ingest it. When we come back, we're going to talk about pollinators. Pollinators are more than just those bumblebees in your yard around your flowers, right after this.
Never miss a thing. Sign up for the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener newsletter. Go to thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com and click on the newsletter box.
Beans and Barley Market and Cafe, a neighborhood specialty grocery store for the east side and greater Milwaukee area, where you can find all you need, from fresh produce to bakery to organic frozen dinners, from wine to fresh squeezed carrot juice. A health food store with hundreds of products, vitamins, supplements, bath and body items, magazines, cards, books, and a knowledgeable staff. Catering available, open daily at 8 a.m. The restaurant serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week with a menu of good, healthy, homemade food, including vegetarian and non-vegetarian specialties. 1901 East North Avenue, Milwaukee, 414-278-7878, and online at beansandbarley.com. Really Granola is a small batch Wisconsin-made granola available at reallygranola.com. This granola uses many organic ingredients and features Wisconsin products such as beautiful red Wisconsin cranberries, local honey, and other delicious Wisconsin products. You'll find plenty of fiber and protein in Really Granola, which makes it a great way to start or end your day. This granola is baked in a Wisconsin co-packing kitchen that helps to employ disabled workers. Find Really Granola near you or to buy online, visit reallygranola.com. Mycorrhizae is a beneficial fungus from plantsuccess.com that will greatly increase your plant's germination ability and a healthier root structure. You can increase seed sprouting, root growth, and general plant germination. Mycorrhizae can be used with hydroponics, root cutting, seed sprouting, coco coir, and soil. Plantsuccess.com carries powder, granule, and tablet forms of mycorrhizae. Increase the level of mycorrhizae in your soil for your plants to give them the optimal opportunity to produce an incredible harvest. For more information and to purchase, visit plantsuccess.com.
Garden seeds do not have to cost a fortune. Just 99 cents at migardener.com. With over 300 varieties of non-GMO, heirloom, and organic flower, vegetable, and herb seeds available year-round. Pay less and get more seeds. Shipping as low as $2.50. That just makes sense. Go to migardener.com for seeds and gardening needs, tools, and special blend fertilizer. migardener.com. It's that simple. Family owned and operated.
I want a garden center that listens to and understands my needs.
I want to buy my gardening products from a local business with strong ties to the community.
All I want is a garden center that truly values their customers.
It seems like everyone is selling plants these days, but I'm having a hard time finding quality.
I take pride in my garden, so I want my garden center to take pride in their products.
Where will you be going for all of your gardening needs this season? Blue Mel's Garden Center. We are your answer.
Blue Mel's, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Hallie Baird.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, your destination for all things gardening, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, a whole lot more, 850 videos. And with a whole lot more, in about 2 months, we're going to have fresh peaches drove right to our neighborhood for us to pick up.
Peaches and blueberries.
Peaches and blueberries this time of year.
Right.
From TreeRipe.com.
If you like fresh produce delivered right to your neighborhood, you should check out Tree Ripe Citrus Company. You can find out where to pick up top quality produce from tree-ripe.com. They have beautiful, tasty peaches and juicy, sweet blueberries. If you're sick of bland, mealy peaches and lackluster blueberries from your local grocer, Tree Ripe has what you need. They come right to a stop in your neighborhood, fresh off the truck, right from the source. For location and schedules, visit tree-ripe.com. They have locations all over the Midwest, including Iowa, Upper and Lower Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois, and right here in Wisconsin. Tree-ripe.com is your go-to place for the freshest produce around.
And they are blemish-free. They're about the size of baseballs, even larger. And what do you get, like a half a bushel?
Yeah, it's half a bushel is what you get.
All right, and you just go up right to the truck. They'll pull in the driveway of a business and a parking lot, and it's very organized, very quick, and efficient.
And I just want to remind you, if you have any questions during the show, comments, you can call in at 414-444-5250. Don't feel like you're interrupting us. We definitely enjoy your questions and comments.
So let's talk about pollinators. We all know, from like the 7th grade or younger, what pollinates flowers or fruits or vegetables, bees. Well, there are more pollinators than just bees. There are like a bunch of dozens of varieties of bees in which pollinate things.
Right.
But there are other things in which pollinate your flowers, vegetables, and herbs.
Now, some of these may accidentally pollinate and some pollinate on purpose. So just keep that in mind. bees obviously are pollinating.
Your number one pollination, and there's colony collapse, and we're not going to get on that, but basically colony collapse, based on what scientists are saying, are because of
neonicotinoid pesticides, and that includes things like Roundup.
Yeah. Right. So be cautious
which is also known as glyphosate.
Right.
Right.
And that's what the big farm agricultural industry uses for weed control. So
the first one we have here is hummingbirds. And many people don't realize hummingbirds are pollinators, but they do pollinate, and they like things like fluted flowers.
That's the big trunk where they can get their beak into it.
Like think of a trumpet kind of flower where it has it's kind of deep and wide.
The open end, and then it has the tunnel. Yeah, and that's mainly the pollination. That's about all they pollinate. Is that. And then another one is butterflies and moths.
Now, butterflies and moths, they also...
Which I knew butterflies pollinate. It wasn't, when we do this and we come up with topics and we talk about these, we're not just informing you about this information. We're learning some of this too. And it helps us in the educational process on our end as well in how to be better gardeners too.
Right. So butterflies and moths typically like the more deeper flowers as well, not necessarily fluted, but they have those longer limbs so they can kind of reach in there and get in there. So that's what they like as well.
And you can, and by planting these flowers or trumpeted flowers, you can introduce and bring these insects in because they're around here. They can figure out how to find these flowers. It's amazing how you plant something and they will come to it. Like a hummingbird feeder. They'll figure out what a hummingbird feeder is, and they'll be at your back door. Really interesting how nature works that way. Now, another one that people would fear is bats. Bats are pollinators. They also are very good for the ecosystem. And what do we have? 6 native bats to the Wisconsin state.
Right.
We spoke with a bat expert at the Madison Garden Expo this past February. A very knowledgeable lady, and there are 6 different species, I believe, in Wisconsin. And they not only pollinate... They don't really pollinate plants here in Wisconsin because we don't have the right kind of plants, but they do control a lot of the insects and bugs in the area. So when you see bats, it's not they don't go after people like you see in the movies. They're very they're very to themselves.
They're not. They're more afraid of you than you are of them.
Right.
They don't want to be near you.
Yeah, they're not going to attack you walking down the street and suck your blood. That's not how this works.
These are like fruit bats. They want fruit. They're not trying to get animals or other wildlife.
You can incorporate a bat house on your property to bring them in.
They typically pollinate things like fruits, and those are more of the fruits and vegetables that are growing in warmer climates. But they do eat bad bugs, which is what's good here in Wisconsin.
The insects are a big thing that they consume. Flies are something that are pesky, that are a nuisance, and flies can be anything from gnats all the way up to the regular housefly, or even horse flies, which is a more of a larger insect. And they can pollinate a number of species of plants, and they will also they can also pollinate flowers and trees and bushes and shrubs too.
Right.
But it's not something that is common knowledge. Because it's more of a nuisance than anything when it comes to pollination. Another is beetles. Beetles are one of these good bugs, bad bugs, all in the same thing.
Now, beetles are the original pollinator. They have been around for thousands of years, and they were the original insect that did the pollinating. Now, they sometimes eat your plants and are annoying, but they do. So they're
like that neighbor that's not really nice, but
it's
their
like
neighbor.
A frenemy.
A frenemy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But they will pollinate some plants, bushes, shrubs, flowers, but also they will come in and destroy other flowers, shrubs, vegetables, that type of thing. So it works both ways. So if we can avoid having beetles, that would probably be the best thing. And then there is the old-fashioned, back-to-basic hand pollination. Hand pollination, because of the lack of bees, is becoming more popular in the garden world. These other insects will help pollinate a lot of your vegetables and fruits. But hand pollination is where you take let's take zucchini, cucumbers, for example, and any of your vining, flowering plants, vegetables, the male flowers will appear first. That's the test run for these plants. What these plants do is put out the male flowers and find out if there's any stimulation from the pollinating insects. That determines how many female flowers, about a week and a half later, they put out. So if the plant senses that there's a lot of activity on the male flowers that they put out, then they will put out a lot of female flowers, and then those male flowers, the pollinators will pollinate the female flowers. If you do not have those activity or the high level of activity on the female on the male flowers, the plant will put out very few female flowers to assure that there is something that gets pollinated, because the ultimate goal of these vegetables is not to feed you and I, but it is to pollinate, to generate seeds internally to carry on the traits for the next generation. So we can kind of trick the plant into thinking that there is a lot of activity even if there's not. When you see those male flowers, and all the male flower it's a stem that comes out of the plant that has a flower on it. The female flowers are going to have beneath the flower, it's going to be the remnants of what fruit is soon to be, whether it's zucchini, cucumber, watermelon, whatever the case is. So you can go in there with a paintbrush or your hand or whatever and just tap, or if you have a paintbrush, go in and stimulate
even like a Q-tip,
the internal portions of the male flowers to mimic that they are pollinators that are going in and getting pollen. So when the plant produces the female flowers, it will sense, hey, there's a lot of activity. I can put on a lot of female flowers. The female flowers will get pollinated, and a lot of seeds will be produced for the next generation. That's what the plant's thinking. But by doing that, you'll have a lot of, hopefully, fruit production for yourself. Lack of pollination is what we see in zucchini and cucumbers most relevant. And this is pumpkins as well. But here's the general visualization of what you're going to see. Cucumbers, you get the cucumber that forms very well attached to the actual stem. Below that,
the blossom end,
and below the full-looking cucumber, it trickles down to a very curly, shriveled up fruit or vegetable, that shriveled up portion. What has occurred there is lack of pollination. The flower didn't get fully pollinated. Same thing occurs with zucchini. You'll get an inch or two of actual good green zucchini or yellow zucchini, and then the end begins to rot. There's some calcium deficiency potential with that, but most likely it is a lack of good pollination. You'll see this with pumpkins. You'll get a pumpkin that starts to form about the size of a golf ball, and it dies off. Bad pollination. So if we can get pollinators, plant a lot of flowers, bring them into your garden to prevent or at least slow down the opportunity of bad pollination or lack of pollination in your garden,
right,
it will greatly increase the success and the size and health of the fruit and vegetables in which you are harvesting. So with that being said, grass season is underway. We're going to cut grass. We are cutting grass. Maybe you're not cutting grass yet because you don't have a good quality piece of equipment. Well, Aaron's can help you with that.
Do you hear that? That's your neighbor shaking in their grass-stained shoes, because Aaron's is about to help you step up your grass-cutting game. Your name is on the mailbox, so the Aaron's name should be on your mower. Heavy-duty steel construction, smarter, smoother controls, professional cutting performance. The only thing we love more than the smell of freshly cut grass is the sweet taste of victory. Aaron's, it comes down to this. Visit Aaron's.com to find your local dealer for lawn and snow removal equipment.
Been in the same spot, same zip code for 80 plus years, so it's American made. You know it's good quality. When we come back, Christina Willingham will be with us. She is the founder of GardenNerd.com and her book, Gardening for Geeks, right after this.
Tweet Joey and Holly using hashtag TWVG.
What you say? You say Nasala Kombucha. It'll put some glide in your stride and some pep in your step. Nasala Kombucha. Yeah.
Nasala Kombucha makes your body happy. Nasala Kombucha makes your body smile.
Mantis Plant Protection Protection professional-grade organic pest control solutions. They offer Mantis EC concentrated or ready-to-use sprays, certified organic and environmentally friendly insect killer, gentle on pollinators and other organisms, but effective in killing soft-bodied insects and spider mites fast. Safe around your children and pets. They also have the cleanest and whitest diatomaceous earth on the market. Visit MantisPP.com to receive a free organic pesticide cheat sheet, which is a list of organic insecticides that are used effectively and kills insects fast. Visit MantisPP.com to download it today. Do you have a problem with deer or small herbivores eating your vegetation? There is a natural solution that is safe for your pets and family. Bobex is the answer. An environmentally friendly solution to protect your plants, will not wash off, and is guaranteed. Bobex Deer was independently tested against 9 known competitors and rated 93% effective, second only to a physical barrier. Bobex can be used on all types of ornamentals, trees, and shrubs. Ask for it by name at your local independent garden center. Find out more, visit Bobex.com. BOBBEX.com.
Eating natural and organic is not as expensive as it used to be, especially when you shop at Woodman's. They have aisles full of certified organic food, from fruits and vegetables to dairy products and even meat, all at great prices. They even have a huge selection of wheat-free and gluten-free items. I can come to Woodman's and get everything I need all under one roof. My name is Alicia, and I shop at Woodman's.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, your destination for all things gardening, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, 855, 60 videos. We're putting out 12 to 14 videos a week, so you can sign up for our weekly email under the Be the First to Know, and you'll get all of that in one email every week so you don't miss a thing, as well as downloadable replays of this show, as well as in-studio video and short segments of the radio show in video form. Well, today is the Blue Mel's Spring Kickoff. We're going to be at Blue Mel's between about 10:30 to 12:30 today. They have free food. You can look at their facility, their compost, their wood chips, their greenhouse. And the nice thing, and Holly, you know why people like Blue Mel's so much?
Because Blue Mel's has a wide variety of plants and garden supplies and a knowledgeable staff that can answer all of your gardening questions.
And many of them are master gardeners, too, and they'll sell you. They won't sell you things you don't want. You'll come in and say, hey, I've got an idea for this, and they'll ask, well, what's the purpose and all of that. And sometimes they will talk you out of you buying something that's not going to work for your area or for your particular purpose, which is not many garden centers tell you not to buy something.
Right, and they've been around since 1955. They're family-owned and operated, and no matter the size of your garden need, Blue Mel's will help you out at 4930 West Loomis Road in Greenfield, and they can supply and surpass all of your gardening needs. You can go to bluemills.com or call 414-282-4220.
We will be inside the building, and you can come out and greet us, walk right in, say hi, and we'll be happy to meet you between 10:30 and 12:30 today.
So we have Christy Wilhelmi. She is the driving force behind GardenNerd.com. Her obsession with gardening began in 1996 on the balcony of her Los Angeles, California apartment. Christy believes that gardening unifies both physical activity and healthy food choices while providing a grounding spiritual and creative outlet. She has dedicated herself to the study of organic gardening and its benefits. She's also the author of Gardening for Geeks. Welcome to the show, Christy.
Thanks for having me.
Well, so happy you've taken time and got up early over there in the Los Angeles area to join us on the program today.
Sure, yeah. It's we were hoping for some rain today, but if it's under 40% chance, it usually means it's not going to. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Well, whenever I was looking at your website, GardenNerd.com, came across an interesting article that you had about candle making. You're a candle maker, and you have a very important reason why people should either make or purchase beeswax candles versus the normal candles that we all see. What is that reason?
Well, if we look at the energy first, how much energy it takes to produce a candle made from beeswax versus petroleum, paraffin. Paraffin is a petroleum derivative, so you have to drill it out of the ground and refine it, and that takes a lot of energy, whereas bees are making it from their bodies. It's a fat that they create in order to build comb, and we clean out our beehive when we harvest honey we cut and strain. So we crush and strain our wax, and then we save that wax and form it into candles. The other reason is paraffin contains some carcinogenic elements like benzene and toluene, which I'm not exactly sure I'm pronouncing correctly, but those are the same contaminants found in diesel fuel. So if you think about burning that inside your house, it's off-gassing in a way that's kind of harmful to your health. And then really, for me as a candle maker, I used to have a candle making business, and I was using paraffin, and paraffin is white, and so you dye it and scent it, and the wax dyes and the scents are the thing that makes such a mess in your kitchen when you're making candles, whereas beeswax has a beautiful natural hue to it, so most people leave it in its natural state, and therefore it's easier to work with and doesn't make such a mess.
So that would explain why when you light one of these candles that are not beeswax, you get that black soot that comes off of it.
Yeah, and that has to do a little bit with the wick. So you can make your own wick. If you have a beeswax candle, you can make your own wick as well. I believe it's been a long time since I've done it, but basically you're soaking cotton string in a saltwater solution and then wax, the wax that you're going to be forming the candle with. And then you don't have as much of that black soot going on.
Interesting. Now, in your classes, consultations, and speaking endeavors, what have you found to be the most universal common question from gardeners or want-to-be gardeners?
Everybody wants to know, how do I kill this bug? Whatever bug is eating their garden. And my first point of education is usually around, well, first of all, is it bad or good? There's a lot of beneficial bugs that we need in our gardens, and I try and encourage people to create a balance between good and bad bugs in their gardens so that they don't have any one thing taking over the place, and that the good bugs can combat the bad, and you have a balance so that you don't actually have to do anything about it. And if you have beneficial insectaries growing around your garden, meaning flowers that attract pollinators and parasitic pests, good bugs to the garden, they will attack and consume and take care of the problem for you. So I may have an organic bug spray on my shelf, but I never really use it.
And whether for people who are uneducated, let's use that term, they go and buy a chemical and spray in their garden. That chemical kills all the bugs. It just doesn't kill what it's targeted or what you want it to kill.
You're right. It doesn't discriminate between good and bad, and most of them are it depends on what it is, but they either suffocate, or even organic sprays will either suffocate or strip the protective coating off of the pest, or disrupt its internal organs and its endocrine. I don't think that's the right word, the endocrine system, but the internal organs will. Like glyphosate will disrupt the organs and rupture them is the word I'm looking for. So you don't want to use those things. Not a good idea.
We're in springtime, and you can't turn on the TV without seeing a commercial for Weed and Feed. When planting, let's see here, and people will go buy this for their lawn. Why? And it's not organic. And why is it such a bad thing for people to go buy this and apply it to their grasses and lawns to kill those bad weeds or what they think are bad weeds?
That's a good question. So let's tackle the weed part first. Usually those weed and feeds contain a chemical called 2,4-D, which is listed by our EPA as a low toxin to humans, but it is possibly cancer-causing. And if you think about it, we're not low to the ground when we're running around on grass. Our pets and our children are, though, and so they're more susceptible to it. And 2,4-D is designed to change the way that cells grow. So if you think about that on a molecular level, that's causing disruption in the way, it's causing mutations and disruptions in the way that things grow. So not really great when you think about that in terms of human growth. And then the feed part of that is it contains synthetic fertilizers, and synthetic fertilizers have salts. They're high in salts, which can throw off your soil microbiology balance in your soil food web. That's the creatures, the microbes that live in the soil that keep everything flowing as far as nutrients go for the plants. But synthetic nutrients bond to water molecules and go wherever water goes, which is usually down into the water table. And synthetic fertilizers almost always have much higher concentrations of nutrients than organics do, and therefore much higher than what the plant actually needs. And so what the plant doesn't take up will bond to those water molecules and go down into the water table and out to our waterways, which, if I am correct, Wisconsin borders a lake. So, your waterways end up getting saturated with nitrates, which, if for those uninitiated, nitrates help with green leafy growth.
And algae bloom, yeah.
Exactly. So that's what grows in waterways. So algae blooms rob oxygen out of the water, and then fish die. So it creates this cycle of death, and you get those dead zones in your waterways and pollutants as well. So it's not a good thing.
There are actually dead zones in Lake Michigan as a result of that.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So weed and feed, not my favorite thing.
And you can find, there's YouTubers, and I'm not going to name them on the air, that say, well, as long as you use the synthetic or chemical fertilizer the way it's recommended, you'll have no problem. It doesn't hurt you, it doesn't hurt the environment, which is a bunch of you-know-what.
Well, most people don't follow directions. I mean, very, very few people measure out what's the recommended amount.
If a little is good, a lot is better.
Exactly, and that is definitely not true in this case.
Right.
Okay, so we all have limited space, and in the book you talk about biointensive planting. Without giving too much away, what does that mean, and is it possible or doable for everybody?
Sure. Biointensive planting, biointensive is an umbrella term for growing a lot of stuff in a little bit of space. And in the book, I talk about 4 different methods of biointensive gardening: biodynamics, French intensive, grow biointensive, which is John Jevons' ecology action thing, and square foot gardening, which is the most approachable of the 4. Mel Bartholomew created square foot gardening, and it's the concept of growing things closer together and basically keeping the ground covered. So anytime a crop comes out, a new one goes in right away after re-amending the soil with compost, and you're constantly growing. And so you have to amend the soil really, really well in order to support that kind of intensity. But it's doable for everyone in small spaces and large.
Well, I was happy to see when I was watching one of your YouTube videos that you did this planting tree right, and I'm going to ask you why you did it. People, when they plant trees, bare root or container that comes out of a container, they'll fill the hole with a tremendous amount of compost and enriched soil. They don't use the native soil, and then they strap that tree down like it's a radio tower on top of a hill. These are 2 negative things, and can you explain why you don't want to do neither one of these?
Right. Trees want to grow in native soil, and if you give them this really rich soil right around the root ball, they're not going to. The roots aren't going to travel out. They'll hit this barrier at the end of that hole, and hit native soil and be like, oh, I don't want to go anywhere, and they'll just sort of circle. So planting in native soil, I usually add a little bit of compost just to help with drainage and aeration and microbes, so that the tree will get a good start, and then I'll mix that in with native soil so that it's not such a shock to the system when the root system reaches outside of that. And then you said something about tying it to a telephone pole.
Well, no, they strap it down to fence post, right. and they don't allow the tree to move.
Right, yeah, and you're supposed to put a post on either side with loose bands around the trunk of the tree so that it has wind blowing it and it forces it to form a stronger trunk. It helps with it growing rather than just tying it to a tree, to a stake on its own. It helps the tree grow.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. When people who just add that organic rich soil around their root ball, as the tree grows, it's going to continue to grow, but it's going to be very weak and it's going to be more susceptible to strong winds, and there's not going to be a foundation. It's just going to topple over. Am I wrong on this or right?
Yeah, if your soil, if you just plant it in like a commercial potting soil and it's not, your native soil is usually more compacted than that. It can absolutely just fall over, depending on where you live and what your weather conditions are. Out here, it's not as harsh, and so people can get away with it a little bit longer, but generally speaking, it's not a good idea.
Right.
So how can people get a free copy of your organic gardening tips that you mentioned on your website, and then also where can people find your book?
Oh, sure. So if you go to gardennerd.com, that's GARDENERD.com, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter, our monthly Garden Nerd Gazette, and you'll be sent a link for your free top tips. And that's also where you can find Gardening for Geeks or anywhere books are sold.
Absolutely. Well, Christy, we appreciate you coming on the program and sharing some of your gardening wisdom, not only with Holly and myself, but our listeners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
And we'll be right back after this with your garden questions and our garden answers.
Have a gardening question? You can call into the ivorganic.com hotline at 414-444-5250 right now.
Do you want your next raised beds to be easy, functional, and beautiful? The Embrace helps you create the garden you've always wanted. Finally, raised beds that everyone can assemble and enjoy. No tools needed. Just slide any lumber into the Embrace corner, fill with your favorite soil mix, and you're ready to plant. Made from 100% recycled steel right here in the USA. And a portion of every sale helps to build school and community gardens all across the country. Let the Embrace help you create your next raised bed. Grow beautifully with the Embrace. Available at local garden centers and online at artofthegarden.net.
Hodgson Mill, 125 years of experience producing stone ground organic flour and cornmeal made from premium quality whole grains. Family-owned company. Continual standards that are non-GMO, organic at the highest safety levels. Offering a wide variety of flours, pasta, baking mixes, flaxseed, and more. Even kosher and gluten-free options. Found at most local grocers like Woodman's. For more information and recipes, visit HodgsonMill.com. That's HODGSONMILL.com.
The number one key to healthy, productive plants are the roots. Starting from seed to full-grown plants, Rootmaker.com has the answer. From seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots, creating a fabulous root system, never again will you have root-bound plants, to multiple gallon grow bag sizes to raised beds. Rootmaker.com has your grow needs covered. Visit Rootmaker.com.
Do you have a little space to grow? Check out Greenstock Vertical Gardens at greenstockgarden.com. Greenstock is engineered to grow with its innovative space and water-saving design. You can grow vegetables, flowers, herbs, and even strawberries in just 2 square feet of space. Grow up instead of out. Perfect for the porch, patio, or deck. Grow up to 30 plants in a small space. GreenstockGarden.com has everything you need to grow in the littlest of spaces. Proudly made in the USA. For more information and to purchase, visit greenstockgarden.com.
Hi, I'm John Lewandowski, retail manager of Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center. Now, I'm not going to tell you about our awesome dome-grown plants, our beautiful pottery, or our 40 varieties of landscape materials. What I am going to tell you is that Blue Mel's is a local, independent, family-owned garden center that truly cares about your garden or landscape project. So if you're looking for that one garden center that actually cares about you, come to Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center. We've been treating our customers like family since 1955.
Blue Mel's, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show.
We are the only garden radio show in Milwaukee, produced in Milwaukee. I know there's a station on the FM side low that pumps in some stuff from Madison. But if you're the only one, can you be number one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're the only one, we're number one.
Yeah.
So that works.
With your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, your destination for all things gardening, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, 850 videos. It's the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, number one in the city, to help you be number one in your garden. If you've got a question, you can feel free to call into the ivorganics.com hotline.
And that's at 414-444-5250. Ivy Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard naturally protects plants against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents, protects newly installed plants and trees, shields pruned and damaged surfaces for use on your roses, fruit, and nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs. This product is non-toxic, environmentally safe, and organic. For more information, visit ivyorganics.com. Again, that number is 414-444-5250. So we had a question about a Meyer lemon tree.
Yeah, if you don't call that number, you're not going to get a hold of us. So keep that in mind. Put that on speed dial, jam your fingers in the phone, and we can get your questions answered. And you can email us at twvgradio@gmail.com anytime. We'll get back to you, as well as you can tweet us at #TWVG and let us know where you're listening from in the world.
All right.
So let's talk about this lemon tree.
So this person bought a small Meyer lemon tree about 2 months ago.
This came from our Facebook page, the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. We get questions on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, as well as our email all week long, and we're happy to answer them.
All right. And it was doing good and it started to flower, but about 3 weeks ago, the leaves started turning yellow and falling off. Now it looks like a twig with a few leaves and little green buds starting to grow. She had replanted him. And
it's a him tree, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it says.
Okay.
I read online that overwatering might be the culprit, and where she has it faces west, so there's a lot of sun. Could it be too hot? What's the deal?
Okay. Well, we have a dwarf lime tree that we purchased. What was it, 4 years ago? And it started with like a twig you found in your yard, and dwarf lemon trees are very susceptible to too much water or not enough water. If it's not enough water, the leaves will curl and almost all of them will fall off. If it's too much water, it's the same thing. If you notice where lime and lemon trees typically grow, it's very sandy soil, very well-draining soil. They don't like a lot of moisture around the roots. There's got to be some for the plant to grow. But if you just go ahead and let the soil dry out to a point where it's slightly damp, then you're fine. That it will regrow. We've had this happen on both extremes. Too much water, not enough water. The leaves all fall off, and within a couple of 4 or 5 weeks, they regrow. And also helps stimulate the plant to put on more additional stem growth and more leaves. So perfectly fine. Just be more conscious of how much you're watering or how much you're not watering. And full sun is fine. We have ours facing south, and we keep it in the kitchen year-round because the fluctuation of moving it outdoors to indoors puts the plant in shock. And
we decorate it at Christmas
Yeah,
time.
you put Christmas lights on it and ornaments, and you turn your lime tree into a Christmas tree.
Right. So the other question is I have 2 raised beds with topsoil in them. I want to switch to organic soil. Can I leave some of the topsoil in the beds?
Yes, you can leave some of the topsoil in the beds. The problem, here's the thing. If you got the topsoil, which you've probably brought in from other portions of your property, it contains weed seeds and organisms and all that stuff. I would really recommend just removing all of it and starting fresh with organic compost and not worry about the topsoil. Use that topsoil, put it somewhere else, enrich a flower bed, because you want to start fresh. Because if you start bringing and mixing stuff together, you may have bad in with good, you have some bad bugs and all that stuff. You really want fresh as possible. And the second part of this question is?
I would putting cardboard or felt first at the bottom of my raised beds reduce the weeds?
Yes, it will. Different individuals will say the structure of city grass you'll have in your backyard, whether you're city or country or wherever, is very weak structure, and by just putting compost over top of it, you'll smother the grass out. Though that may be true, I still want a little barrier of just regular 2 or 3 layers of cardboard. And then you put your soil, you put your frame around it, and put your compost on top of fill your raised beds with. You could use a weed barrier,
right,
which is a plastic or a fabric type of material. That will also work. If you are in a location where you have moles, voles, or even gophers, what you want to put on the bottom of that raised bed is what is called hardware cloth. It's a very thick gauge wire mesh. What this will prevent is those critters from burrowing up under the raised bed and then in destroying your plant life. This barrier, this wire mesh, they'll hit that and then they won't climb up there. So even if you don't think you have moles or voles or gophers or anything like that, it may not be a bad investment to go ahead and put that hardware cloth underneath. Put the hardware cloth and then put your cardboard and then put your compost. Your cardboard will biodegrade after a year or so, and that should kill any of the vegetation that your bed is setting on.
I just want to touch on this question real quick because we are at that time of year. they had a comment saying they love our show, but her kitchen is covered with baby plants from seeds that she started. Her husband just bought her a greenhouse. At what point can she put her plants out into that greenhouse? And so we recommend not putting, if you're doing any plants that are going to go outside, it's good to acclimate them to that new temperature. That's the same thing even if you're putting them in a greenhouse. You don't want them to have that shock.
Right. Take them out, get them accustomed to the greenhouse, bring them back in. It's called hardening them off. Getting them used to, one, the intensity of light that is natural, and two, the fluctuation from your house temperature of, let's say, 70 degrees to the fluctuation of 38 to 65 degrees outside, or even warmer in a greenhouse. Over a 4 or 5 day period, those plants should be acclimated to where you can put them out in that greenhouse, and the fluctuation of temperature and sunlight should be very minimal to the reaction of the plant. So that's important. And even when you go and do this to plant them outside, like you talked about, Holly, you want to harden them off. Now, if you're buying them, your starts from Blue Mel's, you don't have to harden them off if you're just buying them and then putting them in the ground. Now, if you're buying them today, your tomatoes or your peppers or your eggplants, and bringing them inside until it gets warm enough at the end of the month, then you're going to have to harden them off or get them acclimated to the outdoor temperature, because you take a tomato, eggplant, pepper, warm weather crop from indoors, plant it outside, in 2 hours that plant's going to be dead, because the intensity of light and the shock, it's just like, and it's a terrible example, but this is what happens. You take a baby and throw it in a bath of ice cold water, the shock is not good. That's the same thing that's happening to these baby plants.
Right.
Okay. And here, the question of the week. Here's the question of the week, and I was very happy to get this, and we addressed this with Christy, but I want to readdress it again.
If I use grass clippings in my garden as mulch from a yard that has had weed and feed applied to it, well, there will be residual herbicides that go into my vegetables. Can I let the grass clippings sit out for a while and that residue goes away if there is any?
Residue from weed and feed is derived from 2,4-D, which is a chemical that is sprayed in agricultural use to kill broadleaf plants. It is used a lot in pastures to kill
broadleaf weeds
that the farmer doesn't want the cattle to be eating. So if you do this on your lawn, you take the grass clippings and let them set in a compost and let it break down, the residual from that 2,4-D is still going to be prevalent in the broke down grass clippings, which are now compost that you're going to feed to your plants. The plants are going to take up, and the plants will die. So you cannot do that.
And that the herbicide does stick to water molecules, so it's going to go into the water table as well, which means it's going to go into your soil.
And there's been gardeners who have went ahead and took grass clippings and just used them as mulch in their garden, and their plants all died, and then they did the math backwards and found out that they used a weed and feed or other chemicals on the grass. The grass clippings had that in it. The watering of the vegetables, tomatoes, whatever, fed those plants and killed those plants. So we got one. We can go one more question here.
Can you grow Jack B. Little pumpkins in a 5-gallon bucket? If you don't know what a Jack B. Little pumpkin is, it's basically like a mini pumpkin.
It's the little decorative pumpkins, not edible, just decorative.
Right.
There's white and there's orange. You can. I would recommend more of a 10-gallon grow bag, 15-gallon grow bag, or even a bag of compost. Cut down the side and grow them in that. Pumpkins are an incredible feeder of nutrients, whether you're growing small ones or the jack-o'-lanterns or Jahardia pumpkins or the meat pumpkins. I would go with a half a bag. I would go with a bag of compost. Cut down the side, open it up, put holes in the bottom, and grow it out of that. You could get away with a 5-gallon bucket if you had a secondary planting of these to just experiment. But the more compost and more soil you have for those pumpkins, the better they are. Well, the show is brought to you by the sponsors you've heard throughout the program. You can find all of those under the radio tab on our website, and those individuals are what make this show possible and why we are here every week.
Nasala Kombucha is the executive sponsor of the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show. Nasala is made in Wisconsin with your local tea and natural herbs. Look for it in the refrigerator aisle at your local grocer. If you don't see it, ask for it, because if it's not Nasala Kombucha, it's not kombucha. For more information, you can visit nasala.com.
And keep in mind, we will be at Blue Mel's today from about 10:30 to 12:30. They'll have free food. You can see the facility. You can buy your plants, as well as you can talk to us. Programming note for next week: extreme limited gardening, urban planting to get ideals to get the most out of your little space, as well as 6 bugs that are not your friends in your summer garden. As well as Doug Oster. He is an author, radio host of The Green Thumb Gardener, and he is a contributor to the Pittsburgh Gazette paper each week. He will be with us talking about gardening and how we can better maximize the space that we have. So until next week,
I'm Holly Baird.
And I'm Joey Baird, and we will see you in the garden.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5, Milwaukee.